The metallic taste of blood lingered in the air as Max pressed his enhanced snout against the cold steel of the ventilation shaft, his genetically modified senses screaming warnings that no human instrument could detect. 3 decks below, in the bowels of the starship Canis Major, something was terribly, impossibly wrong. But we are getting ahead of ourselves, aren't we? Let me take you back to when this legend began, when a simple German shepherd from the military kennels of Earth would become the most feared commander in 3 galaxies. The scent of fear never lies. Max had learned this truth long before the genetic enhancements, long before the neural implants that allowed him to interface with starship systems, long before his name became whispered in reverence across the Andromeda Armada. On that humid Tuesday morning at Fort Bragg, as he watched his handler, Sergeant Maria Santos, clean her sidearm with hands that trembled just slightly, he knew something had changed. The cleaning ritual was always the same: oil on cloth, methodical strokes, the soft whisper of metal against fabric. But today, Maria's heartbeat drummed faster, her breathing shallow, and beneath the familiar sense of gun oil and regulation soap, Max detected something else. Something acrid and sharp that made his hackles rise instinctively. "Easy, boy," Maria whispered, not looking up from her weapon. Her voice carried that forced steadiness humans used when they were trying to convince themselves as much as others. Just another mission. But Max knew better. The kennel had been buzzing with unusual activity for weeks now. Scientists in white coats had been observing the canine units, taking notes, whispering about candidates and enhancement protocols. The other dog sensed it too. Rex, the Belgian Malinois with the scarred muzzle, had been pacing his cage for days. Luna, the black lab with eyes like liquid amber, had stopped eating her favorite treats. Change was coming, and it smelled like antiseptic and ambition. The laboratory where they took Max 3 days later was a cathedral of chrome and glass, filled with the soft hum of machinery that seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. Dr. Elizabeth Chun, the lead geneticist, moved with the precise grace of someone who had performed this procedure countless times before, yet her hand shook as she prepared the first injection. "This won't hurt," she lied, her voice barely audible above the whirring of centrifuges and the steady beep of monitoring equipment. Max lay still on the examination table, every muscle in his body coiled with tension, his enhanced hearing picking up conversations from rooms away. The other scientists spoke in hushed tones about neural pathway expansion, sensory amplification, and cognitive enhancement beyond baseline canine parameters. Words that meant nothing to him then, but would soon reshape the very fabric of his existence. The first injection burned like liquid fire coursing through his veins, setting every nerve ending ablaze with sensations he had no words for. Colors became more vivid, sounds more distinct, and beneath it all, a strange new awareness bloomed in his mind like a flower opening to sunlight for the first time. But the real change came 3 weeks later, when the neural implant was installed. Max remembered waking up and understanding, truly understanding, the conversations happening around him. Not just the tone and emotional content he had always been able to interpret, but the actual words, the complex meanings, the subtle implications. It was as if someone had suddenly turned on lights in a room he hadn't even known was dark. "How do you feel, boy?" Dr. Chen asked, her voice tinged with something between wonder and fear. For the first time in his life, Max found himself wanting to answer not with a bark or a whine, but with words. The neural implant made it possible. Thoughts became digital signals. Signals became text on a screen, and suddenly the barriers between species seemed as fragile as morning mist. "I feel different," appeared on the communication tablet beside his bed. "Like I'm seeing the world for the first time." Dr. Chen stepped back, her face pale. Around the laboratory, the other scientists stopped their work, drawn by the impossible sight of a dog engaging in philosophical conversation. "What have you done to me?" Max's thoughts appeared on the screen again. "We've given you a gift," Dr. Chen whispered, but her words carried the weight of someone who wasn't entirely sure they'd done the right thing. The months that followed were a blur of training, testing, and gradual awakening. Max learned to interface with computer systems, to read star charts, to understand tactical displays and navigation protocols. His enhanced senses could detect minute changes in atmospheric composition, identify individuals by their unique sense signatures from miles away, and predict weather patterns days in advance. But it was his emotional intelligence that truly set him apart. While other enhanced animals focus purely on their assigned tasks, Max retained something essentially canine: an unwavering loyalty, an intuitive understanding of pack dynamics, and an ability to inspire trust that transcended species barriers. The day they assigned him to the Canis Major was the day everything changed again. Captain Rodriguez, a weathered veteran with kind eyes and calloused hands, knelt down to Max's eye level in the spaceship's cargo bay. Around them, the ship hummed with the controlled chaos of departure preparations. Crew members from a dozen different worlds moved with practiced efficiency, their diverse forms and alien scents creating a symphony of activity that would have overwhelmed an unenhanced dog. "I know this is strange," Rodriguez said, his voice carrying the authority of command tempered with genuine warmth. "A dog is second in command of a starship. Hell, it's strange for me too. But the brass says you're special, and after reading your test scores..." He paused, studying Max's intelligent brown eyes. "Well, let's just say I've seen worse commanding officers who walked on two legs." Max's tail wagged involuntarily, a gesture that felt somehow undignified given his new status. Yet he couldn't suppress the simple joy of approval from a pack leader. "I won't let you down, Captain," appeared on his portable communication device. "I know you won't," Rodriguez replied, scratching behind Max's ears in a gesture that was both casual and somehow ceremonial. "Welcome to the crew, Commander Max." The title felt strange, foreign, like an ill-fitting collar. But as Max looked around at the diverse crew, humans, Altarians with their 6 arms and compound eyes, the silicon-based crystallines who communicated through harmonic resonance, the photosynthetic verdants with their bark-like skin, he realized he was no longer just a dog, or even just an enhanced dog. He was something new entirely. The Canis Major was a beautiful ship, sleek and deadly as a hunting hound in space. Her corridors smelled of recycled air, ozone from the electrical systems, and the distinctive sense of her multi-species crew. Max spent his first weeks learning every deck, every junction, every hidden passage. His enhanced memory mapped the ship's layout with the same precision his ancestors had once used to track prey across ancient hunting grounds. But it was the crew he found most fascinating. Lieutenant Zara Voss, the human tactical officer, carried herself with military precision, but Max's enhanced senses detected the lingering trauma from her last posting. Her heartbeat would spike whenever someone approached from behind, and she favored her left side in a way that suggested old injuries. Chief Engineer Grix, one of the 6-armed Altarians, worked with mechanical brilliance, but longed for the vast crystal gardens of his homeworld. Max could smell the sadness on him, sharp and persistent like ozone before a storm. Even Captain Rodriguez carried secrets. Late at night, when he thought no one was watching, he would stare out the observation deck windows with eyes that held too much loss for one lifetime. A pack, Max realized, was more than just individuals working together. It was a complex web of relationships, dependencies, and unspoken understanding. And somehow, despite his strange position as a dog in command, he found himself becoming the thread that held them all together. His first real test came 3 months into their patrol of the Outer Rim. Max was in his quarters, a specially modified space with both human furniture and accommodations for his canine needs, reviewing star charts on his neural interface when the smell hit him. It was faint, almost imperceptible beneath the ship's normal atmospheric mix, but unmistakably wrong. Metal, burning circuits, and something else, something organic and hostile that made every instinct scream danger. He was moving before conscious thought could intervene, his enhanced muscles propelling him through the corridors with deadly grace. The scent trail led him deeper into the ship, past the crew quarters, past the engineering decks, down into the maintenance areas where few people ventured. In the depths of the ship, in a forgotten storage compartment behind the water recycling systems, Max found them. 3 Zorgon infiltrators, their cybernetic implants gleaming dully in the red emergency lighting, crouched around a device that pulsed with malevolent energy. Their scent was all wrong. Part organic, part machine, part something else that didn't belong in any natural order. They had been there for weeks, Max realized, slowly sabotaging critical systems while remaining undetected by all electronic surveillance. Only his enhanced senses had been able to pierce their stealth technology. The largest Zorgon, its face more machine than flesh, looked up as Max entered the compartment. For a moment, predator and prey studied each other in silence. A dog. The creature rasped through vocal cords that were more synthetic than organic. How quaint. Max didn't respond immediately. Instead, he activated his neural link to the ship's communication system, sending a silent alert to the bridge while simultaneously analyzing the device the Zorgons had been working on. His enhanced pattern recognition identified it immediately. A quantum destabilizer designed to tear the ship apart from the inside at the molecular level. Security to Storage Bay Gamma 7, he transmitted to Captain Rodriguez. We have a problem. The Zorgon commander raised a weapon that hummed with deadly energy, but Max was already moving. His enhanced reflexes, combined with natural canine agility, made him a blur of motion in the confined space. He struck the first infiltrator before it could fire, his reinforced claws tearing through cybernetic armor like paper. The fight was brief but vicious. The Zorgons were stronger and better armed, but Max had advantages they couldn't account for. He could predict their movements by scent and sound, could squeeze through spaces too small for their bulky forms, and most importantly, he fought with the desperate fury of a pack protector defending his family. When security arrived 3 minutes later, they found Max standing over 3 disabled Zorgons and a disarmed quantum destabilizer, his fur matted with strange-smelling fluid from the alien's damaged cybernetics. How did you find them? Captain Rodriguez asked, his voice a mixture of awe and concern as he surveyed the aftermath. I could smell them, Max replied through his communication device. They've been here for 17 days, based on the scent trail. Their stealth technology is impressive, but it can't mask biological signatures from enhanced senses. Rodriguez knelt down and placed a hand on Max's head, a gesture of respect between equals rather than the casual pet of a superior to a subordinate. You saved us all, he said quietly. The entire ship. That's what Pac does, Max replied. We protect each other. Word of the incident spread through the Andromeda Armada like wildfire. A dog, an enhanced dog, yes, but still a dog, had single-handedly prevented the destruction of a major starship and uncovered a Zorgon infiltration network that had eluded military intelligence for months. Admiral Harrison, the gruff commander of the 7th Fleet, visited the Canis Major personally to debrief Max. The old soldier sat across from the German shepherd in the ship's conference room, studying him with eyes that had seen too many battles and lost too many good soldiers. I've read the reports, Harrison said, his voice gravelly with age and authority. Impressive work, Commander. But I need to understand. How do we know you're loyal? How do we know the enhancements haven't changed you in ways we can't predict? It was a fair question, and one Max had been asking himself. The genetic modifications had given him capabilities far beyond any natural dog, and the neural implant had opened up vast new realms of thought and understanding. Was he still the same creature who had bonded with Maria Santos in that kennel so long ago? You want to know about loyalty? Max's response appeared on the conference room's main display. Let me tell you about loyalty, Admiral. When I was young, before the enhancements, I had a handler named Maria. She trained me, fed me, played with me when regulations allowed. One day, during a training exercise, she fell into a ravine. Broken leg, unconscious, no radio contact with base. I could have run back to get help. That would have been the smart thing to do. Instead, I stayed with her for 18 hours in freezing rain, keeping her warm with my body heat until the search team found us. She lived. I nearly died from exposure. You want to know if my loyalty has changed? It hasn't. It's evolved. My pack is no longer just one human. It's this crew, this ship, this fleet, this galaxy. I will protect them all with the same devotion I showed Maria Santos, because that's what loyalty means. Not blind obedience, but conscious choice to put others before yourself. Admiral Harrison was quiet for a long moment, then slowly nodded. I think I understand, he said finally. And I think the Armada needs to understand too. Commander Max, how would you feel about your own ship? The command ceremony for the Canis Major was unlike anything in Armada history. Representatives from dozens of worlds gathered to witness a German shepherd formally take command of one of the fleet's most advanced vessels. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. If a dog could rise to starship command, then the barriers between species truly were dissolving. Captain Rodriguez, promoted to admiral and reassigned to fleet operations, performed the traditional transfer of command as he handed the ship's ceremonial key to Max. Modified to accommodate paws rather than hands, his eyes were bright with unshed tears. "She's a good ship," he said quietly. "Take care of her." "I will," Max promised. "And I'll take care of the crew too. They're all that matters now." The early days of Max's command were challenging in ways no academy could have prepared him for. Leading a multi-species crew required understanding not just military protocols, but the complex cultural dynamics of a dozen different worlds. The Altarians respected hierarchical authority, but expected their concerns to be heard. The crystallines communicated through harmonic frequencies that could be misinterpreted as aggression. The Verdans required specific atmospheric conditions that sometimes conflicted with other species' needs. But Max's enhanced senses gave him advantages no human commander could match. He could detect stress pheromones, identify deception through micro-expressions and scent changes, and sense the crew's morale in ways that transcended language barriers. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim, his new tactical officer, had been skeptical at first. A career military officer with 2 decades of experience, she had serious doubts about serving under a canine commander, regardless of his enhancements. "With respect, sir," she said during their first private meeting, "this crew needs to know you can make the hard decisions. Command isn't just about protecting people. Sometimes it's about sacrificing some to save many. Can you do that?" Max had considered this question many times during his sleepless nights in the captain's quarters. The neural implant had given him the capacity for complex moral reasoning, but his canine nature still prioritized pack protection above abstract strategic considerations. "I can make hard decisions," he replied finally, "but I will never stop looking for the third option, the solution that saves everyone. My predecessor taught me that the best commanders are the ones who refuse to accept that sacrifice is inevitable." Kim studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I can work with that, sir." The first major test of Max's command came 6 months later, when the Canis Major was assigned to patrol the disputed Kepler sector. Intelligence reports suggested increased Zorgon activity in the region, but the exact nature of their operations remained unclear. It was Commander Kim who first detected the anomalous readings. "Sir, I'm picking up strange energy signatures from the Kepler 442 system," she reported from her tactical station. "It's not matching any known Zorgon technology." Max was on the bridge reviewing supply reports when Kim's announcement sent a chill down his spine. His enhanced hearing picked up the subtle changes in the crew's breathing, heartbeats accelerating as adrenaline began flowing. The bridge's atmospheric recyclers couldn't mask the sudden spike in stress pheromones. "Put on the main screen," Max ordered, his voice calm despite the warnings his instincts were screaming. The tactical display showed a star system that should have been empty except for a few barren planets and asteroid fields. Instead, massive energy readings emanated from what appeared to be a construct of impossible size, a structure that dwarfed even the largest space stations in Armada records. "Analysis, Commander Kim." "Sir, based on the energy output and structural dimensions, this appears to be some kind of superweapon. The power core alone could sterilize entire star systems." Max felt his hackles rise, an involuntary response that his bridge crew had learned to interpret as a sign of extreme danger. When their captain's instincts activated, smart officers paid attention. "Distance to target? 18 hours at maximum warp, sir." "Too close," Max thought, his enhanced senses already detecting the faint gravitational distortions that suggested massive fleet movements in the area. "This is a trap. Set course for the system, but reduce speed to half impulse as we approach the outer planets. I want full sensor sweeps of everything within a light-year radius. If there's a Zorgon fleet waiting for us, I want to know about it before they know about us." The journey to Kepler 442 was tense with anticipation. Max spent most of it on the bridge, his enhanced senses monitoring the crew's psychological state while his tactical mind processed dozens of potential scenarios. His neural implant allowed him to interface directly with the ship's sensor array, extending his awareness far beyond normal limitations. It was this extended awareness that saved them all. 12 hours out from the target system, Max detected something that shouldn't have been there, a faint sense signature carried on the ship's atmospheric recyclers. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but unmistakably familiar. The same metallic organic scent he had detected in the storage bay months earlier. "All stop," Max ordered immediately. "Sir." Commander Kim looked up from her station, confusion evident in her voice. "We have uninvited guests aboard," Max explained, already moving toward the bridge exit. "Continue on course, but maintain battle readiness. I'll be back." If I come back, he thought, but didn't transmit. The hunt through the ship's corridors was like nothing Max had experienced before. The Zorgon infiltrators were better this time, their stealth technology more advanced, their movements more careful. But they couldn't mask their scent from his enhanced senses, and they couldn't anticipate the tactical advantages of a predator who thought like prey. Max found them in the computer core, 3 levels below the bridge. 5 infiltrators this time, working frantically to install what appeared to be a viral transmitter into the ship's main data systems. If they succeeded, they would not only compromise the Canis Major, but potentially the entire Armada network. The largest Zorgon, its body more machine than flesh, looked up as Max entered the computer core with the silent grace of his hunting ancestors. "The dog again," it rasped, its synthetic voice carrying a note of something that might have been respect. "You're becoming quite the nuisance." "That's Commander Dog to you," Max replied through his communication device, simultaneously activating silent alarms throughout the ship. The fight was harder this time. The Zorgons had studied his previous encounters, adapted their tactics to account for his speed and enhanced senses. They had energy nets to limit his mobility, sonic disruptors to interfere with his hearing, and pheromone scramblers to confuse his sense of smell. But they had underestimated the one advantage they couldn't counter: Max's pack instincts and tactical intelligence working in perfect harmony. He didn't fight them directly. Instead, he led them on a running battle through the ship's corridors, using his intimate knowledge of every passage and junction to separate them from each other. When they pursued, he had chosen the battlefield. When they hesitated, he struck from unexpected angles. By the time security arrived, Max had disabled 4 of the 5 infiltrators using nothing but superior positioning and the ship's own environmental systems. The 5th, the commander, lay unconscious in the hydroponics bay, overcome by an atmospheric mix that would have been harmless to any biological creature, but devastating to its particular combination of cybernetic implants. "Ow!" Commander Kim asked, staring at the aftermath in amazement. "I learned something today," Max replied, his thoughts appearing on the tactical display. "The Zorgons are learning to counter my advantages. But they're making the same mistake everyone makes when they fight a pack predator. They think in terms of individual combat instead of environmental warfare. The ship isn't just my vessel, it's my territory. And in my territory, I have advantages they can't anticipate or counter." The interrogation of the Zorgon commander revealed information that changed everything they thought they knew about the war. The superweapon in the Kepler 442 system wasn't just a threat to the Andromeda Armada. It was designed to destabilize the quantum foundations of local space-time, creating a cascade effect that would eventually consume entire sectors of the galaxy. The Zorgons weren't trying to conquer known space. They were trying to remake it entirely, creating a universe where their cybernetic consciousness could exist without the limitations of biological matter. "My God," Admiral Harrison whispered during the emergency briefing. "They're not just fighting a war, they're committing cosmic genocide." "There's more," Max added, his thoughts appearing on the conference room's main display. "According to the intelligence we extracted, this is just the first of 12 such weapons. They plan to activate them simultaneously, creating a chain reaction that would effectively end biological life as we know it." The silence in the briefing room was deafening. "How long do we have?" Admiral Harrison asked. 72 hours until the first weapon becomes fully operational. After that, they can begin the cascade sequence at any time. Options: assault the facility directly. It's heavily defended, but the weapon has a critical vulnerability during its initialization phase. If we can penetrate their defenses and reach the core before activation, it's suicide, Commander Kim interjected. The intelligence reports show at least 3 full battle fleets defending the system, plus automated defense platforms that would make the Battle of Rigel look like a training exercise. Yes, Max agreed. It probably is suicide, but it's the only chance we have. Admiral Harrison was quiet for a long moment, studying the tactical displays with the weight of billions of lives on his shoulders. What do you need, Commander Max? Everything, Max replied. Every ship, every weapon, every trick we've learned in this war. And then pray to whatever gods watch over us that it's enough. The assembled fleet was the largest single force in Armada history. 67 starships from across the galaxy, representing every member species of the Alliance. Humans and Altarians flew alongside crystallants and verdants, their crews united by the knowledge that failure meant the end of everything they had ever known or loved. Max stood on the bridge of the Canis Major, now designated the fleet's flagship, watching the final preparations with a mixture of pride and terror. His enhanced senses could detect the fear emanating from every ship in the fleet, but beneath it was something else: determination, resolve, and a fierce protective instinct that transcended species barriers. They were no longer separate fleets from different worlds. They were a pack, and he was their alpha. All ships report ready, sir, Commander Kim announced. Max activated the fleet-wide communication system, his thoughts transmitted to every vessel in the Armada. Today we face an enemy that seeks not just to defeat us, but to erase the very concept of biological life from the universe. They believe that consciousness can exist without flesh, that intelligence can function without emotion, that order can be maintained without the chaos of life itself. They are wrong. We fight not just for our worlds, but for the right of life to exist in all its messy, complicated, beautiful diversity. We fight for the bonds between parent and child, for the loyalty between friends, for the love that connects us across the vast darkness of space. Some of you may not survive the next few hours. I won't lie to you about that. But know that your sacrifice will echo across eternity, that beings yet unborn will live free because of what we do today. We are the guardians of life itself. Let's remind the universe why that matters. The journey to Kepler 442 took 18 hours, but it felt like a lifetime. Max spent most of it moving through the fleet, using his enhanced senses to monitor crew morale and provide tactical guidance to individual commanders. His reputation as the dog who had saved the galaxy had spread throughout the Armada, and his presence on each ship seemed to calm fears and strengthen resolve. But as they approached the target system, even Max's confidence was shaken by what they found. The Zorgon defenses were beyond anything intelligence had predicted. Massive automated platforms bristled with weapons that could vaporize entire ships in seconds. Energy barriers powerful enough to stop moon-sized asteroids surrounded the superweapon. And defending it all, a fleet of cybernetic vessels that moved with inhuman precision and coordination. "Sir," Commander Kim reported, her voice steady despite the impossibility of what they faced. "I count 137 enemy vessels, plus 42 defense platforms. They outgun us by approximately 8-1. "Good," Max replied, and he meant it. If it was easy, they wouldn't need us. The battle began badly and got worse quickly. The Zorgon fleet attacked with mechanical precision, their ships coordinating in patterns no biological crew could match. Within the first hour, the Armada had lost 12 vessels and barely scratched the enemy's outer defenses. But Max had studied every battle report from the war, analyzed every tactical engagement, and learned something the Zorgon's mechanical minds couldn't comprehend. Chaos wasn't a weakness to be eliminated. It was a weapon to be wielded. "All ships, break formation," he ordered. "Execute pattern Delta 7. "Sir, that's not a real tactical pattern," Commander Kim protested. "Exactly. The Zorgons are fighting us like we're machines. Let's show them what biological chaos can accomplish." Pattern Delta 7 was organized madness. Every ship in the fleet began moving in seemingly random directions, attacking targets of opportunity without regard for overall strategy. To the Zorgon commanders, it must have looked like complete breakdown of command and control. But Max's enhanced senses were coordinating it all, his neural implant processing data from across the battlefield and finding patterns in the chaos that no conventional tactical system could match. He was directing 67 individual ships like a conductor leading an orchestra, and the music they made was devastating. The Zorgon fleet, programmed to respond to logical tactical patterns, couldn't adapt to the Armada's chaotic assault. Their perfect coordination became a liability as they tried to counter moves that made no mathematical sense, but achieved tactical objectives through pure audacity and biological intuition. Canis Major to all ships. Max transmitted as they broke through the outer defense perimeter. Primary objective is now in range. Commence final assault. The superweapon was a thing of terrible beauty, its crystalline core pulsing with energies that hurt to look at directly. As the Armada's remaining ships concentrated their fire on its outer defenses, Max prepared for the most dangerous part of their mission. He had to get inside the weapon and manually disable it from within. "Sir, you can't seriously be considering a boarding action," Commander Kim said, reading his intentions in his body language. "The quantum core can only be disabled by someone with enhanced senses capable of detecting the resonance frequencies in real time," Max replied. "None of our instruments are sensitive enough. It has to be me. Then I'm going with you." "No, you need it here. If I fail, you have to get word back to the Armada about the other 11 weapons." Kim's face was pale, but she nodded in understanding. Max was right, as he usually was. This was a mission for one. The boarding pod launched from the Canis Major during the height of the battle, its small size and erratic flight pattern allowing it to slip through the Zorgon defenses undetected. Max piloted it manually, his enhanced reflexes and spatial awareness letting him navigate through energy barriers that would have disintegrated any conventional craft. Inside the superweapon, the corridors were filled with a sound that made Max's enhanced hearing ache, a low, harmonic frequency that seemed to resonate in his bones. The quantum core was nearing full activation, and reality itself was beginning to strain under the forces being generated. He found the control center at the weapon's heart, a vast chamber dominated by a crystalline structure that pulsed with malevolent light. Standing before it, connected to the system through dozens of cybernetic interfaces, was a figure that made Max's blood run cold. General Vex, the supreme commander of the Zorgon Empire, was more machine than any being Max had encountered. Its original biological form was barely visible beneath layers of cybernetic enhancement, and its eyes glowed with artificial intelligence that felt utterly alien and hostile. "The famous Commander Max," it said, its voice a synthesis of 1,000 different vocal patterns. "I have been curious to meet the biological anomaly that has caused us so much difficulty. And I've been curious to meet the thing that wants to murder an entire galaxy," Max replied through his communication device. "Murder?" Vex tilted its head in a gesture that was disturbingly organic despite its mechanical nature. "We seek to perfect the universe, to eliminate the chaos and inefficiency of biological existence. What you call murder, we call evolution. What I call murder, you call Tuesday. There's a difference between us, General. I still remember what it means to be alive." The fight with General Vex was unlike anything Max had experienced. The Zorgon commander moved with inhuman speed and precision, its cybernetic enhancements making it faster and stronger than any biological opponent. But Max had advantages that no amount of mechanical augmentation could counter. He fought like what he was, a pack predator using intelligence and instinct in perfect harmony. Where Vex relied on calculated strikes and programmed responses, Max used deception, misdirection, and the kind of tactical creativity that could only come from a mind that balanced logic with intuition. The battle raged around the quantum core as the superweapon's activation sequence continued. Max could feel reality straining around them, space-time beginning to warp as the device prepared to tear holes in the fundamental structure of the universe. In the end, it wasn't strength or speed that won the fight. It was something Vex couldn't understand or counter, the willingness to sacrifice oneself for others. As the quantum core reached critical resonance, Max made his choice. Instead of trying to defeat Vex directly, he threw himself at the control interfaces, using his neural implant to interface directly with the weapon systems despite the massive feedback that would likely kill him. The pain was indescribable, like having every nerve in his body set on fire while his enhanced senses were overloaded with data streams that threatened to burn out his consciousness entirely. But through the agony, he found what he was looking for: the resonance frequency that would cause the quantum core to collapse safely instead of tearing reality apart. "All ships, clear the area," he transmitted with the last of his strength. Core collapse in 60 seconds. The explosion, when it came, was visible from 3 star systems away. The superweapon's quantum core imploded with such violence that it created a temporary black hole, consuming itself and taking General Vex with it. Max's boarding pod, caught in the gravitational collapse, should have been destroyed instantly. But the enhanced reflexes and spatial awareness that had made him such an effective commander served him one last time. In the microseconds before the black hole formed, he managed to activate the pod's emergency warp drive, riding the edge of the gravitational wave back toward the Armada fleet. He woke up 3 days later in the medical bay of the Canis Major, surrounded by crew members whose relief was visible even to his pain-clouded senses. "Welcome back, sir," Commander Kim said, her voice thick with emotion. "You've been unconscious for 72 hours. The doctors weren't sure." "The other weapons?" Max managed to transmit, his neural implant still functioning despite the massive feedback damage he had suffered. "Destroyed," Kim replied with a smile. "Turns out they were all linked to the primary core. When you collapsed it, the resonance effect propagated through the quantum network and took out all 11 remaining superweapons." "The war?" "Over, sir. Without the superweapons, and with General Vex dead, the Zorgon Empire fractured into competing factions. Most of them are seeking peace negotiations." Max tried to stand, but his enhanced muscles felt like liquid. The feedback from interfacing with the quantum core had damaged more than just his neural implant. It had affected the very genetic modifications that made him more than an ordinary dog. "How long before I'm fully recovered?" he asked. Dr. Chun, now Chief Medical Officer of the fleet, exchanged glances with Commander Kim before responding. "Max," she said gently, "the damage to your enhancement systems is significant. We can repair most of it, but the neural pathways that allowed you to interface with ship systems are permanently damaged. You'll still be enhanced beyond baseline canine parameters, but your ability to command starships—" She didn't need to finish. Max understood. His time as a starship commander was over. The retirement ceremony was held on Earth, in the same military base where Max's journey had begun so many years before. Representatives from every member world of the Andromeda Armada gathered to honor the dog who had saved the galaxy, but Max's attention was focused on one figure in the crowd. Maria Santos, now a colonel with silver threading her dark hair, stood at attention in the front row. Her scent carried the same warmth and strength that Max remembered from their early days together, mixed now with pride and something that might have been wonder. When Admiral Harrison called Max forward to receive the Galactic Medal of Honor, the first ever awarded to a non-human, Maria was the one who stepped forward to place the ribbon around his neck. "I always knew you were special," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the ceremonial music. "But I never imagined this. I'm still the same dog who stayed with you in that ravine," Max replied through his communication device. "Everything else was just added features." Maria laughed, a sound that carried across the years and reminded Max of simpler times when the universe was smaller and the stakes lower. "What happens now?" she asked. Max looked around at the assembled crowd, at the representatives of dozens of worlds who had gathered to honor him, at the young cadets whose eyes shone with inspiration and possibility. But his enhanced senses also detected something else: the scent of other dogs, enhanced like himself, waiting in the wings for their own chance to serve. "Now I go back to what I always was," he replied. "A teacher, a trainer, a guide for those who come after." The months that followed were among the happiest of Max's life. Based at the new Interspecies military academy, he worked with a new generation of enhanced animals. Dogs, yes, but also dolphins with enhanced cognitive capabilities, eagles with improved visual processing, and even a few cats whose natural independence had been channeled into exceptional reconnaissance abilities. But it was the dogs that remained closest to his heart. Rex, the Belgian Malinois with the scarred muzzle, had been among the second wave of enhancements. His specialization was close-quarters combat and ship security, and he approached training with the same intense focus that had made him legendary among Earth's canine units. The key, Max taught him during one of their training sessions, is not to think like a machine. The Zorgons could calculate every possible tactical response, but they couldn't predict chaos, creativity, or the willingness to sacrifice for others. Those are our advantages. Luna, the black lab with amber eyes, had been enhanced for deep space exploration and first contact scenarios. Her emotional intelligence and natural friendliness made her perfect for establishing trust with unknown species. Remember, Max told her as she prepared for her first assignment, every new species you meet will judge all of us based on their first interaction with you. Show them that enhanced animals aren't weapons or curiosities. We're partners, colleagues, friends. But the most promising of the new generation was Scout, a young German shepherd whose genetic profile was remarkably similar to Max's own. The resemblance went beyond physical characteristics. Scout had the same intuitive understanding of pack dynamics, the same fierce loyalty tempered with independent thinking, the same ability to inspire trust across species boundaries. He reminds me of someone, Maria commented during one of her visits to the academy. She had taken a position as liaison between the enhanced animal program and conventional military units, ensuring that the lessons learned from Max's service were integrated throughout the Armada. He reminds me of me too, Max admitted, watching Scout lead a mixed-species training exercise with natural authority. Sometimes I wonder if they used my genetic template as a baseline for his enhancements. Would that bother you? Max considered the question carefully. The idea that his unique combination of traits was being replicated, that other dogs might follow the same path he had taken, raised complex questions about identity and individuality. No, he decided finally. If my experiences can help others serve more effectively, if the lessons I learned can be passed on through more than just training, that's not theft. That's legacy. The first major test of the new generation came 18 months after Max's retirement, when long-range sensors detected unusual activity in the Veil Nebula. The readings suggested a massive artificial structure, but unlike anything in known databases. Admiral Kim, formerly Commander Kim, promoted after her service aboard the Canis Major, requested Max's input on the mission parameters. We're not sure what we're dealing with, she explained during their briefing. The energy signatures don't match any known technology, Zorgon or otherwise. It could be a first contact scenario, or it could be another superweapon. We need someone with enhanced senses to assess the situation. Send Scout, Max replied without hesitation. He's ready. Are you sure? His combat experience is limited to training scenarios. Admiral, with respect, my combat experience was limited to catching infiltrators in storage bays when you first trusted me with command of the Canis Major. Experience is important, but instincts matter more. Scout has good instincts. The mission to the Veil Nebula became Scout's proving ground. The artificial structure turned out to be neither weapon nor threat, but something far more extraordinary. A vast arc ship carrying the last survivors of a species that had fled the Zorgon expansion centuries earlier. The Kythera, as they called themselves, were beings of pure thought who had abandoned physical form to escape cybernetic conversion. They existed as living energy patterns within crystalline matrices, and their first contact protocols required precisely the kind of intuitive understanding that Scout possessed. Where human diplomats might have struggled with the aliens' non-corporeal nature, Scout simply accepted them as another form of pack, different in substance but recognizable in their fundamental need for connection and understanding. The key was not trying to communicate like a human, Scout reported during his mission debrief. I approached them like I would approach any new pack member, with curiosity, respect, and the assumption that we had more in common than we had differences. The successful integration of the Kythera into the Andromeda Armada marked a turning point in interspecies relations. For the first time, membership was extended to beings who weren't biological in any conventional sense, opening the door for even more diverse forms of life to join the galactic community. Max watched the ceremony, welcoming the Kythera with quiet pride. In the years since his retirement, the galaxy had become a far more inclusive place, and he knew that the enhanced animal program had played a crucial role in that transformation. You did well, he told Scout during their private celebration afterward. Better than I did in my first command. I had a good teacher, Scout replied, his own communication implant, allowing for the same kind of thoughtful exchange that had become Max's trademark. You had good instincts. I just helped you learn to trust them. As the years passed, Max settled into a comfortable routine at the academy. His days were filled with training sessions, tactical seminars, and the endless stream of reports from enhanced animals serving throughout the galaxy. Each success story, each innovation in interspecies cooperation, each peaceful resolution of what might once have been a violent conflict added to his sense of accomplishment. But late at night, when the academy was quiet and the stars were visible through his quarters windows, Max sometimes felt the pull of deep space. His enhanced senses, though diminished from their peak, could still detect the subtle gravitational fluctuations that suggested massive ships moving through distant systems. Part of him missed the command deck of the Canis Major, missed the moment-to-moment decisions that could affect the fate of entire worlds. Do you ever regret it? Scout asked during one of their evening walks around the academy grounds. The young German shepherd was preparing for his second deep space assignment, and his questions had grown more philosophical as his responsibilities increased. Regret what? Giving up command. You could have stayed on as an advisor, found some way to work around the neural implant damage. Admiral Kim offered you a position on her staff. Max was quiet for a long moment, his enhanced hearing picking up the sounds of night shift training exercises in the distance. Somewhere in the darkness, other enhanced animals were learning the skills they would need to protect the galaxy, to forge connections across the vast gulfs of space and species. I could have stayed, he admitted finally, but that would have been about my ego, not about service. The galaxy doesn't need Max the starship commander anymore. It needs Max the teacher, the guide, the one who helps others find their own path to greatness. Besides, he added with what might have been amusement, I've seen what the next generation can accomplish. They don't need me holding their leash. Scout's tail wagged at the canine humor, but his expression remained serious. What if something happens? What if there's another crisis like the Zorgon superweapons? What if the galaxy needs Commander Max again? Max stopped walking and looked up at the stars, his enhanced vision picking out the running lights of ships in high orbit. The Armada was still out there, still vigilant, still ready to face whatever threats might emerge from the unknown depths of space. Then Commander Max will answer the call, he said simply. But until that day comes, Teacher Max has work to do. The work continued for another 5 years, each graduation class larger and more diverse than the last. Enhanced animals now served in every branch of the Armada, from deep space exploration to diplomatic missions to the elite units that responded to first contact scenarios. Max's legacy was no longer just his own achievements, but the achievements of hundreds of others who had learned from his example. They carried his lessons to distant stars, his values to alien worlds, his understanding of loyalty and service to species that had never known either. But it was a message from Admiral Kim that reminded Max that his story was far from over. Max, she said during their weekly communication session, we've received a transmission from the Galactic Core. The signal is unusual. It's not coming from any known species, and the mathematical patterns suggest intelligence, but not biological intelligence. We need someone with your experience to assess whether this represents a threat or an opportunity. My neural implant damage has been compensated for by advances in interface technology. Dr. Chen's team has developed a new system that works around the damage pathways. If you're willing, the Canis Major is ready for one more mission. Max was quiet for a long moment, his enhanced senses detecting the subtle changes in his own biochemistry as adrenaline began flowing. The prospect of command, of returning to the stars, of facing unknown challenges with a crew who trusted him completely, awakened something in him that had been dormant for years. When do we leave? He asked. The return to the Canis Major was both familiar and strange. The ship had been upgraded extensively during Max's absence, her systems more advanced, her crew expanded to include representatives of species that had joined the Armada since the end of the Zorgon War. But the essential character of the vessel remained unchanged, and Max felt a deep sense of homecoming as he walked her corridors once again. Commander Zura Vex, no relation to the late Zorgon general, despite the unfortunate surname similarity, served as his executive officer. A brilliant Altarian tactician with 6 arms and compound eyes that could track multiple targets simultaneously, She had specifically requested assignment to Max's ship. "It's an honor to serve with you, sir," she said during their first meeting. "I wrote my academy thesis on your tactical innovations during the Zorgon War." "I hope the conclusion was favorable," Max replied, his new communication interface working seamlessly despite the neural damage he had sustained years earlier. The conclusion was that conventional tactical doctrine had to be completely rewritten to account for the strategic advantages of enhanced biological intuition. "Your methods are now taught at every military academy in the Armada." The journey to the galactic core took 3 weeks, during which Max reacquainted himself with the rhythms of Starship Command. His enhanced senses, though diminished from their peak, still gave him advantages no purely human commander could match. He could detect crew stress before it became problematic, identify potential equipment failures through subtle changes in the ship's electromagnetic signature, and sense the presence of other vessels long before they appeared on conventional sensors. But it was the mystery signal itself that captured most of his attention. The transmission was unlike anything in Armada databases, a complex mathematical sequence that seemed to encode information about fundamental physical constants, but presented in ways that suggested a completely alien understanding of reality itself. It wasn't threatening, exactly, but it implied capabilities that were almost godlike in scope. "Dr. Voss," Max asked the ship's science officer, a human xenobiologist with extensive experience in first contact protocols, "what's your assessment of the signal's origin?" "Sir, based on the transmission patterns and mathematical complexity, I believe we're dealing with a form of intelligence that exists at a scale we can barely comprehend. The signal isn't coming from a planet or even a star system. It's emanating from the galactic core itself, from something that might be using the central black hole as a computational matrix." Max felt his hackles rise, an involuntary response that his bridge crew had learned to respect. When their captain's instincts activated, smart officers paid attention. "Recommendations? Extreme caution, sir. We're potentially dealing with a being that could manipulate gravity, space-time, and the fundamental forces of nature. If it's hostile, then we're already dead," Max finished. "If it's not hostile, then we might be about to make contact with something that could change our understanding of existence itself. Set course for the signal's origin, but maintain full defensive readiness and prepare to retreat at the first sign of threat." What they found at the galactic core defied every expectation. The source of the signal was indeed connected to the central black hole, but not in any way Max could have imagined. Massive structures of crystalline material orbited impossibly close to the event horizon, their surfaces reflecting and refracting the twisted space-time around them in patterns that hurt to look at directly. And within those patterns, something vast and ancient was trying to communicate. "We greet biological entities." The message appeared on the ship's communication systems, the words forming slowly, as if the sender was struggling with concepts too small for its normal frame of reference. "We are architects, builders of galaxies, shepherds of evolution." Max felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature controls. The entity they were communicating with wasn't just alien. It was operating on a scale that made entire star systems seem insignificant. "Why are you contacting us?" Max transmitted back, using the ship's most powerful communication array. "The small ones have surprises. You grow, learn, spread in patterns we did not expect. Your chaos creates order. Your conflicts birth cooperation. You are becoming something new. We would learn from you." The implications of that statement hit Max like a physical blow. A cosmic intelligence that could manipulate the fundamental forces of nature wanted to learn from them, from the chaotic, violent, emotional biological creatures that had somehow managed to forge unity across the vast distances of space. "What do you want to know?" Max asked. "How do you choose sacrifice over survival? How do you find hope in darkness? How do you love what you cannot understand?" Max was quiet for a long moment, his enhanced mind processing the magnitude of what was being asked. A being that had existed since the formation of galaxies, that had witnessed the birth and death of countless civilizations, was asking him to explain the most fundamental aspects of biological existence. "I can't answer those questions alone," he transmitted finally. Those are answers that come from all of us. Every species, every individual, every choice made in the face of impossible odds. If you want to understand us, you'll have to experience us. How? Come with us. Not physically. I don't think that's possible. But send a part of yourself, a fragment of your consciousness, to live among us and learn what it means to be small, mortal, and imperfect. The silence that followed was so complete that Max wondered if he had somehow offended a being capable of restructuring reality itself. But then, slowly, a new presence made itself known in the ship's computer systems. Vast but constrained, ancient but curious, alien yet somehow familiar. I accept, the architect said, its communication now flowing more smoothly through the ship systems. I will experience existence as you do. Perhaps I will understand what makes the small ones so remarkable. The journey back to Armada space took on a completely different character with their cosmic passenger aboard. The architect fragment. It chose the name Echo for ease of communication, experienced everything with the wonder of a child discovering the universe for the first time. The star burns, Echo observed during one of their stops for routine maintenance. But you do not fear its fire. You use it for warmth, for light, for the energy that powers your vessels. How do you transform threat into tool? Practice, Max replied simply. Millions of years of evolution taught our ancestors that fire could cook food and provide warmth, but it could also burn. Learning to use it safely was a matter of survival. Survival requires balance, understanding limitations while transcending them. This is wisdom. As they traveled, Echo's presence began to affect the ship in subtle ways. Systems ran more efficiently, minor malfunctions corrected themselves, and the crew reported a sense of rightness that was difficult to describe but impossible to ignore. But it was Echo's interaction with the crew that proved most remarkable. Zara Vex. Echo communicated with the Altarian tactical officer during one of the ship's routine briefings. Your visual processing allows simultaneous tracking of multiple targets, but you also see beauty, starlight, poetry, mathematics. How do balance, function with appreciation? Commander Vex's compound eyes shimmered with what Max had learned to recognize as Altarian amusement. The same way you balance cosmic awareness with curiosity about creatures too small to matter on your normal scale, she replied. Beauty and function aren't opposites. They're different aspects of the same truth. A tactical formation can be both effective and elegant. A mathematical equation can be both useful and beautiful. This integration of seemingly contradictory concepts is fundamental to biological thinking, Echo observed. You do not choose between logic and emotion. Use both together. Dr. Voss, the ship science officer, had perhaps the most profound conversations with their passenger. What's it like, she asked during one of their scientific discussions, to perceive reality at a galactic scale? How do you experience time when a million years is just a moment? Imagine, Echo replied, that you could put a grain of sand on a beach simultaneously. Each grain unique, important, but also part of a larger pattern. Galaxies, the same. Every star, every planet, every life form is a grain of sand, an infinite beach. What now? I am learning to individual grains as you do, to appreciate their uniqueness, their brief, brilliant existence. It is beautiful and terrifying. The return to Earth was marked by celebrations that echoed across the galaxy. News of contact with the architects had spread through subspace communication networks, and representatives from every member world gathered to witness this historic moment. But it was a small ceremony at the Interspecies military academy that meant the most to Max Scout. Now a full commander with his own ship and crew, had returned to honor his mentor and to witness the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. What happens now? Scout asked as they stood together on the Academy's observation deck, watching the stars that held so much promise and possibility. Now we learn, Max replied. Echo will remain with us, experiencing life as we do, helping us understand our place in a universe far larger and stranger than we ever imagined. And we'll continue doing what we've always done, protecting those who can't protect themselves, building bridges between different forms of life, and proving that chaos and order can coexist. The galaxy is bigger than we thought, he continued, and we're smaller than we realized. But we're also more important than we dare to hope. The architects want to learn from us, from our mistakes, our triumphs, our stubborn refusal to give up in the face of impossible odds. That's quite a responsibility, Scout observed. Yes, Max agreed, but it's one we've been preparing for our entire existence. Every act of courage, every moment of compassion, every choice to trust rather than fear, they've all been leading to this. The years that followed were marked by unprecedented cooperation between species and unprecedented expansion of knowledge. With Echo's guidance, the Armada developed technologies that had seemed like fantasy, faster-than-light communication across galactic distances, terraforming techniques that could transform dead worlds into garden paradises, and perhaps most importantly, translation protocols that allowed meaningful communication with forms of life that had previously been incomprehensible. Max remained at the Academy, training new generations of enhanced animals and serving as a liaison between the Armada and their cosmic allies. His days were filled with the same activities that had occupied him for years: teaching, mentoring, and watching his students surpass his own achievements. But now those achievements included contact with beings that existed as living mathematics, first contact with crystalline entities that communicated through harmonic resonance, and the establishment of the first permanent research stations in parallel dimensions. You have exceeded even our expectations, Echo told Max during one of their regular conversations. The architect fragment had developed its own personality over the years, becoming more than just an observer, but a true member of the galactic community. How so? Max asked. We expected you to grow, to evolve, to expand your understanding of the universe. We did not expect you to teach us to grow as well. Through experiencing existence as you do, we have learned that scale does not determine significance. A single act of kindness can resonate across eternity. A moment of connection between individuals can reshape the fundamental patterns of reality itself. You have shown us that the universe is not just a collection of physical forces and mathematical constants. It is a living tapestry of relationships, emotions, and choices that transcend space and time. Max was quiet for a moment, processing the magnitude of what Echo was telling him. So what happens next? He asked finally. Next, you continue being exactly what you are. Teachers, explorers, bridge builders, guardians of the impossible dream that different forms of life can not only coexist but thrive together. And we will learn to be worthy of the universe you are creating. There will be new challenges, Echo continued. Other galactic clusters, other forms of existence that even we do not fully understand. But you will meet those challenges as you always have, with courage, compassion, and the absolute refusal to accept that any problem is truly unsolvable. And Max, you will not face them alone. Your legacy lives on in every enhanced animal who serves in the Armada, in every act of interspecies cooperation, in every choice to trust rather than fear. You have proven that a single individual, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, can change the course of history itself. That evening, as Max walked the familiar paths around the Academy grounds, he reflected on the strange journey that had brought him from a simple military working dog to a bridge between species and a teacher of cosmic significance. The scent of Earth's flowers carried on the evening breeze, mixing with the subtle atmospheric signatures of a dozen different worlds whose representatives now called this planet home. Above him, the stars held promises and challenges he could barely imagine, but also the certainty that whatever came next, the galaxy would face it together. His enhanced hearing picked up the sounds of night training exercises, young voices calling out commands in languages that hadn't existed when his journey began. The next generation was already preparing for challenges he couldn't anticipate, armed with skills he had helped develop and values he had spent a lifetime teaching. In the distance, a ship's engines fired as another deep space mission began, carrying enhanced animals and their crews toward unknown wonders and unseen dangers. They would succeed, Max knew, because they understood what he had learned long ago in that storage bay where he first faced his organs. The pack protects itself. The pack endures. And as long as beings were willing to stand together against the darkness, the light would never truly fade. Max paused at his favorite spot on the academy grounds, a small hill that overlooked the training facilities and provided a clear view of the star-filled sky. This was where he came when he needed to think, to remember, to reconnect with the simple truths that had guided him through a lifetime of impossible challenges. Tomorrow would bring new students, new challenges, new opportunities to make the galaxy a better place. There would be crises to resolve, connections to forge, and lessons to teach. The work was never finished, the mission never complete. But tonight, under the stars that held infinite possibility and surrounded by the sounds of the next generation preparing to exceed even his wildest dreams, Max was content. He was still what he had always been, a dog, enhanced but not transformed, who had learned that the greatest adventures weren't found in distant galaxies, but in the bonds between beings who chose to trust, to serve, and to love despite the vast darkness that surrounded them all. The universe was vast, ancient, and filled with wonders beyond imagination. But it was also, in the end, home. And Max, the German shepherd who had saved the galaxy and taught cosmic entities the meaning of sacrifice, was exactly where he belonged, preparing the next generation to carry the light even further into the infinite darkness, one pauperin at a time.